Zelmora stared out at the endless blackness through the observation dome of their small research vessel. The tiny pinpricks of distant stars offered no comfort, only a cold reminder of how utterly alone they were in the vast emptiness between solar systems. It had been 247 cycles since the catastrophic failure of their propulsion system, leaving the ship drifting helplessly through the void. The silence was absolute. Not the peaceful quiet of meditation chambers back home on Kelvar, but a crushing absence of sound that seemed to press against Zelmora's sensory membranes. The only noises came from within the ship itself. The occasional soft beep of failing systems, the hum of life support running at minimum capacity, and the slight creak of the hull as it cooled in the absolute zero of deep space. Zelmora checked the resource display again. The numbers had not changed much since yesterday's brief period of wakefulness. Oxygen recycling was at 17% efficiency, water purification at 22%. Food stores had been depleted long ago, forcing them to survive on emergency nutrient solutions. The ship's automated systems had calculated that life support would fail completely in approximately 30 more cycles. Their four-fingered hand passed over the console, shutting down all non-essential systems once again. The lights dimmed further, plunging most of the ship into darkness. Only the soft blue glow of emergency lighting remained. It was a practical decision. Every bit of power saved extended survival time, but it made the loneliness even more profound. Zelmora's species had evolved for efficiency. When resources became scarce, their bodies could enter a deep hibernation state, slowing metabolism to a fraction of normal. It was a biological adaptation that had saved their ancestors during the Great Drought, centuries ago on their homeworld. Now it was the only thing keeping Zelmora alive in the emptiness of space. With practiced movements, they prepared for hibernation once again. The small medical chamber had become both sanctuary and prison over the past cycles. Zelmora settled onto the padded surface, connecting the monitoring devices to the neural points along their slender arms. Their pale blue skin, once vibrant with health, had faded to an almost translucent gray. Begin hibernation sequence. They spoke softly to the ship's computer. The words felt strange in their throat. It had been many cycles since they had spoken aloud. There was no one to talk to after all. The chamber hummed softly as temperature decreased. Zelmora's breathing slowed, their triple-lidded eyes closing as consciousness began to fade. The ship's computer would wake them briefly every cycle to check systems and make any necessary adjustments. Before the darkness of hibernation claimed them completely, Zelmora's thoughts drifted to the rest of their research team. Had the distress beacon been received before power failed? Had the other escape pods reached safety? Or were they all drifting in the void like Zelmora, alone and slowly dying? The Kelvarian philosophy taught acceptance of the inevitable. All things return to the void eventually. But Zelmora had never imagined their end would come like this. Not exploring a new star system or making a breakthrough discovery, but simply fading away, forgotten among the stars. Dreams came in hibernation, vivid, strange, and often troubling. Memories mixed with fears and hopes. Zelmora dreamed of the green skies of home, of swimming in the crystal pools of their childhood, of the day they had been selected for the Deep Space Research Program. The greatest honor, their parent guardian had said, to expand knowledge is to honor the collective. The Kelvarian collective valued knowledge above all else. Their civilization had spread slowly but methodically to nearby star systems, carefully studying and cataloging everything they encountered. They were not conquerors or traders. They were observers, scientists, knowledge keepers. The research mission had been routine, a stellar mapping expedition to chart a previously unexplored sector. The unexpected radiation burst from a dying star had damaged their systems beyond repair, forcing the crew to abandon ship. Zelmora, as mission leader, had remained behind to coordinate the evacuation. The final escape pod had malfunctioned before they could board it. Time passed differently in hibernation. What felt like moments to Zelmora's sleeping consciousness was actually days of real time. The ship drifted on its aimless course through the darkness, a tiny speck of life in an uncaring universe. On cycle 248, something changed. The hibernation chamber activated its wake-up sequence unexpectedly. Zelmora rose to consciousness slowly, confused by the premature awakening. Had a system failed completely? Was this the end? Their eyes opened slowly, adjusting to even the dim blue light after the darkness of hibernation. The ship's computer was displaying an alert, but not one of the familiar system failure warnings Zelmora had grown accustomed to seeing. Something was approaching. Fully awake now, Zelmora moved quickly to the observation dome, ignoring the weakness in their limbs. From extended hibernation, the ship's sensors, though damaged, had detected an object moving through space, something large and powered, not a random asteroid or debris. Through the transparent dome, Zelmora could see nothing at first, just the same endless black dotted with distant stars. Then as their eyes strained, they caught a glimpse of something moving against the backdrop of stars. A light, growing steadily brighter. Zelmora felt their heart chambers quicken. After so long alone, the sight of another vessel should have brought pure joy. Instead, caution tempered their hope. The Kelvarian collective knew of several other spacefaring species, not all of them peaceful. In their weakened state, Zelmora would be helpless if the approaching ship belonged to hostiles. They returned to the control console, trying to boost power to the sensors for more information. The effort caused several non-essential systems to shut down completely, but Zelmora needed to know what was coming. The sensor data was frustratingly incomplete. The vessel was larger than any Kelvarian ship Zelmora had ever seen. Its design was unfamiliar. Not the smooth organic curves of Kelvarian engineering, nor the crystalline structures of the Jiran, nor the blocky utilitarian builds of the Vothari. This was something new. As the ship drew closer, Zelmora could now see it clearly through the observation dome. It moved with purpose, not drifting like their own disabled vessel. Lights blazed along its hull, illuminating a name written in unfamiliar symbols. The sight of so much energy being used merely for external lighting was shocking to Zelmora's resource-conscious mind. Should they try to hide? Power down completely and hope the vessel passed by? Or take the risk and attempt communication? Survival. Instinct won out over caution. Zelmora diverted power from life support to the emergency beacon, activating it for the first time in many cycles. The ship shuddered slightly as the energy transfer strained its failing systems. Then they waited, watching as the massive vessel adjusted its course, clearly having detected the beacon. It was approaching more slowly now, deliberately. Through the viewport, Zelmora could see small lights detach from the larger ship and move toward their vessel. Boarding craft of some kind. For the first time in 248 cycles, Zelmora was not alone. Whether this would mean rescue or a different kind of, and remained to be seen. They straightened their posture, smoothed down the tattered research uniform they had worn for far too long, and prepared to meet the unknown. The void had been their prison and would have been their tomb. Now, somehow, it had delivered visitors from beyond the darkness. Zelmora waited as the airlock systems indicated an attempt at connection from outside. The darkness of space was suddenly pierced by bright light as the unknown ship illuminated Zelmora's vessel with powerful external beams. After so long in the dimness of power conservation, the brightness was almost painful. The airlock hissed, breaking the silence that had been Zelmora's only companion for so long. Whatever came through that door would determine their fate. Cuckoo. Void had been lit up and nothing would ever be the same again. Captain Ellie Martinez stood on the bridge of the USS Pathfinder, watching the main view screen with intense focus. The small vessel they had detected drifting in the void looked unlike anything in their database. Its hull was smooth and curved, almost organic in appearance with no visible external engines or weapon systems. The ship was approximately 1/5 the size of the Pathfinder, likely designed for research or exploration rather than combat. "Any response to our hails, Officer Jackson?" Martinez asked, not taking her eyes off the screen. Communications Officer Diane Jackson shook her head. "Nothing on standard frequencies, Captain, but we are picking up a very weak emergency beacon. It just activated a few minutes ago." "Life signs?" Martinez asked, turning to Science Officer Alan Wright. Alan adjusted his scanners, his brow furrowed in concentration. It's difficult to get clear readings through their hull material, but there appears to be one life form aboard. Very faint, life signs possibly in some kind of suspended animation or hibernation state. Martinez nodded, making her decision quickly. Prepare a rescue team. Chief Engineer Porter and Dr. Cohen. Suit up with standard first contact protocols. We're bringing them aboard. The rescue team assembled in the shuttle bay, checking their equipment one final time. Chief Engineer Kevin Porter inspected the portable power units and universal adapters they might need to interface with the alien technology. Dr. Lisa Cohen reviewed the medical scanner settings, adjusting them to detect a wider range of possible life signs. Remember, Martinez told them over the comm system, this appears to be a genuine distress situation, but maintain caution. This would be humanity's first confirmed contact with an intelligent alien species. The shuttle departed the Pathfinder, crossing the void between the two ships in minutes. As they approached, Kevin whistled softly at the sight of the alien vessel. Look at that hull design, he said admiringly. No visible seams or welding points. It's like it was grown rather than built. Focus on the mission, Chief, Lisa reminded him gently. We need to find a way in first. The shuttle circled the alien craft slowly, scanning for entry points. They located what appeared to be an airlock on the ship's ventral side. Kevin guided the shuttle carefully into position, using the magnetic docking system to create a temporary seal. Atmospheric analysis shows the ship still has internal pressure, Lisa reported, checking her scanner. But oxygen levels are dangerously low, and the temperature is well below normal human comfort range. Suits stay on until we know more, Kevin agreed, securing his helmet. He activated the cutting tool, prepared to force entry if necessary, but to his surprise, the outer door of the alien airlock began to cycle open. Someone's expecting us, Lisa said quietly. The two humans entered the airlock cautiously, waiting as the outer door sealed behind them and the chamber pressurized. The inner door slid open silently, revealing a dimly lit corridor beyond. They activated their suit lights, the powerful beams cutting through the blue-tinged darkness of the alien ship. Hello? Kevin called out, knowing the universal translator would attempt to convert his greeting into a range of frequencies and patterns. We've come to help. Is anyone there? They moved deeper into the ship, following the faint life sign readings on Lisa's scanner. The corridors were narrow by human standards, but not uncomfortably so. The interior design was minimalist, with smooth walls and very few visible control panels or interfaces. Everything appeared to be designed for maximum efficiency, with no decoration or unnecessary features. Lisa's scanner led them to what appeared to be the ship's control center. A single figure stood there waiting for them. Zelmora watched the strange beings enter the control room with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. They were tall, bipedal creatures, wearing bulky environmental suits that concealed most of their features. Their movements seemed awkward and inefficient to Zelmora's eyes, but there was a purposeful confidence in the way they scanned the room. The translator implant in Zelmora's neural cortex struggled to process the sounds the creatures made. Their language was unlike any the Kelvarian had encountered before, full of harsh consonants and varying tones. The smaller of the two beings approached slowly, holding up a device that emitted a soft blue light. It passed the light over Zelmora in a scanning motion, then turned to its companion and made more of the incomprehensible sounds. Zelmora raised four-fingered hands in the universal gesture of peaceful intent, palms outward and empty. I am Zelmora, research leader of the Kelvarian vessel Harmony of Knowledge, they said, knowing the strangers wouldn't understand but hoping the calm tone would communicate their peaceful intentions. To Zelmora's surprise, one of the beings touched a device on their suit, and a series of sounds emerged that, while still alien, had a pattern that the translator implant could partially process. Friend, help, not harm. The taller being removed a small object from a compartment in their suit and held it out to Zelmora. It appeared to be some kind of nutrient bar. The gesture was unmistakable across species, an offering of sustenance. Zelmora's hands trembled, slightly as they accepted the gift. It had been so long since they had eaten anything other than the emergency nutrient solution. The being made encouraging motions, and Zelmora carefully took a small bite. The flavor was strange but not unpleasant, and the surge of energy was immediate. The smaller being was moving around the control room now, examining the failing systems. It pointed to various displays, clearly understanding their dire state. The being produced a larger device from its pack and began connecting it to the ship's main power coupling. Immediately, the lights in the control room brightened as external power flowed into the failing systems. Zelmora felt a surge of emotion that their translator had no word for in any known language. These strangers, these completely unknown beings, had come not to study or capture or destroy, but simply to help. The taller being was now holding out another device, something that resembled the translator implant technology the Kelvarian used, but much larger and more primitive. It made a series of gestures that Zelmora interpreted as an invitation to speak into the device. "My ship has been drifting for 247 cycles," Zelmora said carefully. "Propulsion failure, life support failing. I am the last survivor." The device processed these words, lights flashing on its surface. After a moment, it produced sounds that the beings seemed to understand. They looked at each other, then back at Zelmora. The smaller one spoke again, and this time the translator implant caught more of the meaning. "Come, our ship, safe, help you." The beings were gesturing toward the way they had come in. They wanted Zelmora to go with them to their vessel. For a moment, caution warred with desperate need. The Kelvarian collective had strict protocols about contact with unknown species, but those protocols assumed a functioning ship and crew, not a lone survivor on the edge of death. The decision, when it came, was simple: stay and die for certain, or trust these strange beings and possibly live. Zelmora nodded slowly and took a step forward. The beings seemed pleased by this, their body language becoming more animated. The taller one offered an arm for support, noticing Zelmora's weakness. Before leaving, Zelmora went to the ship's central memory core and removed the small data crystal that contained all the research findings, ship logs, and personal records. Whatever happened next, the knowledge would be preserved. The journey through the corridors and into the airlock was slow. Zelmora's body, weakened by long hibernation and minimal nutrition, struggled with even this small exertion. The beings were patient, adjusting their pace and offering support. When they reached the small transport vessel, Zelmora hesitated for just a moment, looking back at the ship that had been both home and prison for so long. Then they stepped forward into the unknown. The transport vessel separated from the harmony of knowledge and turned toward the massive ship waiting in the distance. Through the viewport, Zelmora could see it clearly for the first time. Enormous, compared to Kelvarian vessels, blazing with lights that illuminated the darkness of space in a way that seemed almost defiant. Symbols on the hull spelled out what Zelmora would later learn was its name: Pathfinder. As they approached the human ship, Zelmora felt the first stirrings of something they had abandoned many cycles ago: hope. 2 weeks had passed since Zelmora came aboard the Pathfinder. The transition had been overwhelming at first. After months of silence and darkness, the human ship was a riot of sound, light, and activity. Hundreds of crew members moved through the corridors at all hours. The constant hum of machinery and human voices created a background noise that Zelmora found both jarring and comforting. The medical bay had been Zelmora's home for the first 5 days. Dr. Lisa Cohen had worked tirelessly to understand Kelvarian biology and help the alien recover from long-term hibernation. The nutritional supplements she created were helping Zelmora regain strength, and the pale gray of their skin was slowly returning to a healthier blue. "Your readings are much better today," Lisa said, checking the medical scanner. The universal translator device had been refined over the past 2 weeks, allowing for increasingly complex conversations. "How are you feeling?" "The weakness is less," Zelmora replied, "and the dizziness has stopped." Lisa nodded, making notes on her datapad. Your species' ability to hibernate saved your life. Another month in deep space and your life support would have failed completely. Zelmora blinked their triple-lidded eyes slowly, a gesture of acknowledgement. The void takes all eventually, but not me, not yet. The human smiled. A facial expression Zelmora was still learning to interpret. Not for a long time, if I have anything to say about it. Captain Martinez would like to meet with you today if you feel up to it. Zelmora rose from the medical bed. They were dressed in a modified human uniform that had been adjusted to accommodate their slender frame and slightly different proportions. I am ready. Lisa led the way through the corridors of the Pathfinder. Crew members they passed tried not to stare at the alien visitor, but many couldn't help glancing curiously. Zelmora understood their interest. For them, this was likely their first encounter with a non-human intelligence, just as the humans were Zelmora's first contact with a species not catalogued by the Kelvarian Collective. The captain's ready room was smaller than Zelmora had expected. Captain Ellie Martinez rose from behind her desk when they entered, extending a hand in the human greeting gesture Zelmora had been taught. Welcome, Research Leader Zelmora. I'm glad to see you up and about. The captain's voice was firm, but warm. Zelmora carefully extended their four-fingered hand, mimicking the human handshake. Thank you for saving my life, Captain Martinez. The Kelvarian Collective owes you a debt that cannot be measured. Please sit down. Martinez gestured to a chair that had been specially adjusted for Kelvarian physiology. I understand, Doctor. Cohen has been helping you access our ship's database to learn about humanity. Zelmora settled into the chair. Yes, your species is fascinating. So young compared to the collective, yet you have spread so far from your home system. Martinez smiled. We're explorers by nature. Curiosity drives us to see what's over the horizon. This concept of exploration, for its own sake, is new to me, Zelmora admitted. The collective explores with purpose to gather specific knowledge or resources. Your people seem to venture out simply to discover what is there. That's an accurate assessment, Martinez said. I've asked Chief Engineer Porter to join us. He's been studying the data you shared about your ship. As if on cue, the door slid open and Kevin Porter entered, carrying a data pad. His eyes lit up when he saw Zelmora. Perfect timing, I was just reviewing the specs of your propulsion system. Kevin's enthusiasm was evident. The efficiency is remarkable, less raw power than our engines, but the way it channels energy is revolutionary. Our technology developed along different paths, Zelmora observed. We prioritized conservation of resources. Your ship uses more energy in a day than a Kelvarian vessel would use in a month. Kevin nodded. But we can go places and do things that would be impossible with your power constraints. If we could combine our approaches. He trailed off, lost in thought. Captain Martinez steered the conversation back to more immediate concerns. We're heading to Outpost 7, which is our nearest base. We'll arrive in about 3 days. The standard protocol for first contact situations would have you transferred to a specialized facility for cultural exchange. Zelmora felt a flicker of unease. A facility? Would I be studied? Not in the way you're thinking, Martinez assured them. It would be a mutual exchange of information, but I've been considering an alternative. Zelmora tilted their head questioningly, another gesture they had adopted from observing humans. The Pathfinder is on a 5-year mission of exploration, Martinez explained. Our mandate is to chart unknown regions and make new discoveries. Your knowledge of this sector of space would be invaluable, and I believe we could learn a great deal from each other. You are offering to let me stay aboard your ship? Zelmora asked, wanting to be certain they understood. Martinez nodded. As a science advisor and cultural liaison. In return, we would help you contact your people when possible and share our discoveries with you. The offer was unexpected. Zelmora had assumed they would be returned to the collective at the first opportunity. The prospect of remaining among humans, continuing to learn about this strange and fascinating species was both exciting and intimidating. I would need time to consider, Zelmora said carefully. Of course, Martinez replied. In the meantime, perhaps you'd like to see more of the ship. Kevin can show you the engineering section if you're interested. Kevin's face brightened. I'd, be happy to give you the tour, and I have about 1,000 questions about your hull materials. Zelmora spent the next few hours in the engineering section of the Pathfinder, observing the massive warp engines that powered the human vessel. The scale of human engineering was impressive. Where Kelvarian technology was elegant and minimal, human designs were robust and powerful, built with redundant systems and excess capacity that seemed wasteful to Zelmora's efficiency-minded perspective. Your people really do think differently, Zelmora commented as Kevin showed them the main reactor. You build as if resources are unlimited. Kevin considered this. I suppose we do. Earth taught us to dream big. When problems arose, we engineered solutions rather than accepting limitations. The collective teaches acceptance of natural boundaries, Zelmora explained. To work within constraints, not overcome them. Later, Zelmora found themselves in the ship's observation lounge. Unlike the small viewport on their research vessel, the lounge featured a massive transparent wall that offered an unobstructed view of space. Stars streaked by as the ship traveled at warp speed, creating ribbons of light against the darkness. Science Officer Alan Wright found Zelmora there, gazing at the stars. He approached cautiously, not wanting to intrude on the alien's thoughts. It's quite a view, isn't it? Alan said. Zelmora turned slightly. On my ship, we would never use so much space and material for something as impractical as viewing the stars. Yet I find this room brings me comfort. Alan smiled. Humans need beauty as much as we need function. Perhaps that's another difference between our species. Perhaps, Zelmora agreed. Though I am beginning to understand the value in your approach. They stood in companionable silence for a while, watching the stars. Zelmora's mind was filled with new information, new ideas, new possibilities. The humans moved through the universe with a boldness that the careful, methodical Kelvarians had never considered. There was much to learn from them, and perhaps, Zelmora thought, there was much the humans could learn from the collective as well. The balance of power and efficiency, the wisdom of careful planning alongside the courage to explore the unknown. Captain Martinez's offer to remain aboard the Pathfinder was beginning to seem like more than just a courtesy. It was an opportunity to bridge two very different approaches to the universe, to bring the light of human curiosity to the careful knowledge-gathering of the collective. For the first time since being rescued from the void, Zelmora felt a sense of purpose. The darkness had not claimed them. Instead, it had delivered them to a new path, illuminated by the bright lights of a human ship. The Pathfinder dropped out of warp speed near Outpost 7, a large space station orbiting a small rocky planet. Zelmora watched from the observation lounge as the human outpost grew larger in the viewport. The station was impressive by any standard, a sprawling structure of interconnected modules with ships of various sizes docked along its perimeter. Solar arrays extended like great wings, capturing energy from the system's sun. A soft chime indicated someone entering the lounge. Zelmora turned to see Captain Martinez approaching. We'll be docking in 30 minutes, Martinez said, coming to stand beside the alien. Have you made a decision about my offer? Zelmora's triple-lidded eyes blinked slowly as they considered their response. The past 3 days had been filled with intense discussions with various crew members, learning more about the mission of the Pathfinder and what role they might play aboard the ship. I have, Zelmora replied. I wish to remain with your vessel, Captain. The knowledge I could gain for the collective is too valuable to pass up. Martinez smiled, clearly pleased with the decision. I'm glad to hear it, but there's a complication we need to discuss. I've received a communication from Starfleet Command. News of our first contact has reached them, and they're sending a specialized diplomatic team to Outpost 7. They want to conduct a formal cultural exchange and debrief you thoroughly. This would prevent me from continuing with your ship, Zelmora asked. Potentially, Martinez admitted. The diplomatic team will want to establish official relations between humanity and the Kelvarian collective. It's standard procedure, but it could take months. Zelmora turned back to the viewport, watching as the Pathfinder maneuvered toward a docking port. The collective values procedure and protocol as well. But in this case, I believe direct experience would be more valuable than formal discussions. I agree, Martinez said. Which is why I've proposed an alternative. Instead of a lengthy diplomatic process now, you would remain with the Pathfinder as a cultural liaison. We would continue our mission, and you would document your observations of human culture while sharing information about the Kelvarians. When we eventually make contact with your people, you would help facilitate formal relations. Your superiors have agreed to this plan? Martinez's expression became slightly more guarded. Not entirely. They're concerned about protocol. Science Officer Wright is particularly vocal about regulations regarding unauthorized personnel. You would be taking a risk for me, Zelmora observed. For both of us, Martinez corrected. I believe the scientific and cultural benefits outweigh the procedural concerns. The ship shuddered slightly as it completed docking procedures. Zelmora could see Outpost 7 personnel moving about through the viewport. Soon they would come aboard the Pathfinder. What must I do? Zelmora asked. Meet with the diplomatic team, answer their questions, but make it clear that your preference is to remain with the Pathfinder for continued cultural exchange. Zelmora nodded. I understand. 3 hours later, Zelmora sat in a conference room aboard Outpost 7. The diplomatic team consisted of 4 humans who asked detailed questions about Kelvarian culture, technology, and political structures. Zelmora answered truthfully but carefully, aware that their responses would shape humanity's first impression of their people. The Kelvarian collective spans 7 star systems, Zelmora explained. We are not a military power. Our focus is on research and knowledge preservation. Commander Peter Gray, the leader of the diplomatic team, nodded as he made notes. And your government structure? How are decisions made? We have a council of knowledge that guides research priorities and resource allocation. Decisions are based on consensus after careful study of all available data. It is slow compared to human methods, but it ensures all perspectives are considered. The questions continued for hours. Zelmora described Kelvarian biology, their homeworld, their philosophical beliefs, and their history of space exploration. The diplomatic team seemed particularly interested in what the Kelvarians knew about other spacefaring species. Our databases contain information on 12 other intelligent species, Zelmora said, though we have only had direct contact with 5. The others we know only through observations or ancient records. This statement caused a stir among the diplomats. Commander Gray leaned forward. Would you be willing to share this information with us? That would be for the council to decide, Zelmora replied diplomatically, but I can provide general information that is not considered sensitive. As the meeting progressed, Zelmora became aware of an underlying tension. The diplomatic team clearly saw them as a valuable intelligence source and potential bridge to multiple alien civilizations. Their questions became more pointed, focusing on Kelvarian defenses, resource production capabilities, and technological achievements. When the meeting finally ended, Commander Gray approached Zelmora privately. We would like to arrange transport for you to Earth. Our scientists and leaders are eager to establish formal relations with your people. I appreciate the offer, Zelmora replied carefully, but I believe remaining with the Pathfinder would be more beneficial for both our peoples at this time. Captain Martinez has offered me a position as a science advisor and cultural liaison. Gray frowned slightly. With all due respect, this decision shouldn't be left to a starship captain. First contact situations have established protocols. Perhaps, Zelmora acknowledged. But I was not found by your protocols. I was found by the Pathfinder. I owe them my life, and I trust Captain Martinez's judgment. The commander seemed about to argue further when the door to the conference room opened. Captain Martinez entered, followed by Chief Engineer Porter and Dr. Cohen. Commander Gray, Martinez greeted formally. I trust your meeting with research leader Zelmora has been productive. Very, Gray replied, his tone cooling. We were just discussing transfer arrangements to Earth. Actually, Martinez said, I've received new orders from Admiral Foster. The Pathfinder is to continue its mission with Zelmora aboard as a science advisor. The Admiral believes first-hand observation during an actual mission will provide more valuable insights than formal debriefings. Gray's expression tightened. I wasn't informed of this change. The orders just came through, Martinez said smoothly. You can verify with the Admiral if you wish. Zelmora watched this exchange with interest. The subtle power dynamics between humans were fascinating. Among Kelvarians, such disagreements would be discussed openly in council, with all perspectives given equal consideration. Humans seemed to operate with more individual authority and initiative. After Commander Gray left to confirm the orders, Martinez turned to Zelmora. We leave in 6 hours. The diplomatic team will want to continue their discussions until then. Did Admiral Foster really issue those orders? Zelmora asked quietly. Martinez's expression remained neutral. She will by the time Commander Gray contacts her. I've forwarded my recommendation along with the research potential your presence offers. You are taking a significant risk, Zelmora observed. Sometimes the right path isn't the one in the rulebook, Martinez replied. The Pathfinder's mission is to explore and make new discoveries. Having you aboard fulfills that mission better than handing you over to a diplomatic team. Later, as they prepared to depart Outpost 7, Zelmora stood in the ship's cargo bay, watching as supplies were loaded for the next phase of their journey. Engineer Kevin Porter approached carrying a container of parts. I heard you're staying with us, Kevin said, setting down his load. I'm glad. There's still so much I want to learn about your ship's technology. And much I wish to learn about yours, Zelmora replied. Your captain took a great risk to allow this. Kevin smiled. That's Captain Martinez for you. She believes in the spirit of exploration, not just the letter of the regulations. It's why most of us requested assignment. To the Pathfinder, the ship's intercom system activated. All personnel prepare for departure. We will be leaving Outpost 7 in 30 minutes. Kevin picked up his container. Duty calls, but we should continue our discussion of energy conservation techniques. I've been thinking about ways to modify our shield harmonics based on your suggestions. As the engineer walked away, Zelmora felt a growing certainty that they had made the right decision. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was illuminated by human curiosity and ingenuity. Together, perhaps they could bridge the void between their civilizations, just as the Pathfinder had bridged the void of deep space to find a lone survivor drifting in the darkness. 6 months had passed since the Pathfinder left Outpost 7 with Zelmora aboard. The ship had traveled farther into unexplored space, mapping new star systems and cataloging planets with potential for future research. In that time, Zelmora had become an integral part of the crew, no longer viewed as an alien visitor but as a valued colleague. The science lab had become Zelmora's domain. They worked alongside Alan Wright, analyzing data from the ship's sensors and comparing it with Kelvarian knowledge. Today, they were studying readings from a nebula unlike any in either human or Kelvarian records. The radiation patterns are unusual, Alan noted, adjusting the sensor display. It's as if the nebula is changing its composition over time. Zelmora nodded, their blue skin reflecting the light of the display. In Kelvarian science, we would call this a living cloud. Not truly alive, but exhibiting properties of life. Alan looked up with interest. Like Earth's coral reefs, individual organisms creating a larger structure. Yes, though operating on a vastly different timescale. What we are seeing as rapid changes would take thousands of years in reality. Their discussion was interrupted by the ship's communication system. Science Officer Wright and Advisor Zelmora, please report to the bridge immediately. They exchanged glances before quickly saving their work and heading to the turbolift. When they arrived on the bridge, Captain Martinez was standing before the main view screen, which showed a starfield with a small object visible in the center. What do you make of this? Martinez asked as they entered. Alan moved to his sensor station, running quick scans of the object. It appears to be a ship, Captain. Small, approximately the size of a shuttle. No recognizable design in our database. Zelmora stepped closer to the screen, their triple-lidded eyes widening slightly. It is Kelvarian. A hush fell over the bridge. In 6 months of exploration, they had found no sign of Kelvarian presence in this sector. "Are you certain?" Martinez asked quietly. "Yes. It is an emergency beacon vessel." Zelmora's voice held a mixture of excitement and concern. When a Kelvarian ship faces catastrophic failure, these vessels are launched containing location data and distress signals, like a black box and emergency beacon combined, Engineer Kevin suggested from his station. "Similar, yes. This one appears to be dormant. It would activate only in the presence of Kelvarian technology." Martinez turned to her communications officer. "Diane, any signals coming from it?" "Nothing, Captain," Diane replied. "It's completely silent." Martinez considered for a moment. "Kevin, can we bring it aboard safely?" "I believe so, Captain. The tractor beam should be able to guide it into Shuttle Bay 2. "Make it happen," Martinez ordered. "Zelmora, would you like to be present when we examine it?" "Yes, Captain. I may be able to activate it properly." An hour later, the small Kelvarian vessel sat in the shuttle bay, surrounded by a security team, Captain Martinez, Kevin Porter, and Zelmora. The beacon ship was elegant in its simplicity, a smooth oval shape with no visible seams or entry points. Zelmora approached it slowly, placing their 4-fingered hand on its surface. The material responded to their touch, a small section becoming transparent to reveal a control panel. "It recognizes Kelvarian DNA," Zelmora explained, "a security measure to prevent unauthorized access." They manipulated the controls with practiced ease. The beacon ship hummed softly as it activated, projecting a holographic display that filled the shuttle bay. Star maps appeared, showing their current location and another point some distance away. "A Kelvarian colony," Zelmora said, their voice filled with wonder. "I had no idea our people had ventured this far." Martinez studied the star maps with interest. "How old is this beacon?" Zelmora checked the data. "It was launched 32 cycles ago, approximately 40 of your Earth years." "That predates our presence in this sector by decades," Martinez noted. "Is there any other information? What happened to the ship that launched it?" Zelmora accessed more data from the beacon. It was a colony ship, the Horizon of Discovery. They encountered a spatial anomaly that damaged their main systems. The ship was forced to land on a planet in a nearby system. The holographic display shifted to show a blue-green world orbiting a yellow star. "This is where they settled," Zelmora continued. "The beacon was programmed to drift until it encountered another Kelvarian vessel that could bring help. It found us instead," Martinez said softly. "How far is this planet from our current position?" Alan, who had joined them in the shuttle bay, checked his data pad. "Approximately 3 days at maximum warp, Captain." Martinez looked at Zelmora. "It seems we found your people sooner than expected. How do you feel about that?" Zelmora was quiet for a moment, their gaze fixed on the holographic image of the planet. "I am uncertain. I had thought the collective was far from here. This changes many things. We could reach out to Starfleet, arrange for a diplomatic vessel to make official contact," Martinez suggested. "No," Zelmora said firmly. "If these are truly my people, then I should be the one to approach them first. They have been isolated for 40 years. A sudden appearance of unknown aliens could be frightening." Martinez nodded. "Then we'll set course for the colony. The Pathfinder will make the first official contact between humanity and the Kelvarian collective." The journey to the colony planet took just under 3 days. Zelmora spent much of that time with Dr. Lisa, ensuring they were in optimal health for the reunion with their people. The rest of the time was devoted to preparing the crew for the encounter. Kelvarian customs and protocols were reviewed, and potential misunderstandings discussed. As they entered orbit around the planet, the bridge crew was tense with anticipation. Sensors showed signs of a thriving settlement on the surface, with technology signatures consistent with Kelvarian design. "They've detected us," Diane reported from the communication station. "We're receiving a transmission." "On screen," Martinez ordered. The view screen flickered and showed the face of a Kelvarian, similar to Zelmora, but with darker blue skin and intricate patterns that indicated greater age. "Unknown vessel," the Kelvarians said in their language, which the universal translator now processed easily. You have entered the space of the Kelvarian colony. Identify yourselves. Martinez stepped forward. I am Captain Ellie Martinez of the Earth vessel Pathfinder. We come in peace and friendship, and we bring one of your people who was lost in space. The Kelvarian's expression changed subtly as Zelmora moved into view of the transmission. I am Research Leader Zelmora, of the vessel Harmony of Knowledge. I was found drifting in deep space by these humans who saved my life. There was a long pause before the Elder Kelvarian responded. I am Elder Torvek of the Colony Council. We welcome you, Zelmora, and your human friends. This is an unexpected but joyous day. Permission to land is granted. The landing party consisted of Captain Martinez, Zelmora, Dr. Lisa, and Engineer Kevin. They took a shuttle down to the surface, setting down in a clearing near the main settlement. As they exited the shuttle, they were greeted by a delegation of Kelvarians led by Elder Torvek. The reunion was emotional by Kelvarian standards. Formal greetings gave way to an exchange of knowledge and stories. Zelmora learned that the colony had thrived on this world, developing a distinct culture that blended traditional Kelvarian values with adaptations to their new home. We believed ourselves alone in this sector, Torvek told them as they toured the settlement. Our long-range communications were damaged beyond repair during the landing. We have been sending beacon ships for decades, hoping the collective would find us. Instead, you found humans, Zelmora said. A species not known to the collective, but one with much to offer. That evening, the Colony Council hosted a formal gathering to honor the visitors. Under a sky filled with unfamiliar stars, humans and Kelvarians shared food, stories, and knowledge. Captain Martinez described Earth and the mission of the Pathfinder, while Elder Torvek explained how the colony had survived and grown over 4 decades of isolation. As the gathering wound down, Zelmora found themselves standing with Captain Martinez at the edge of the settlement looking up at the stars. Will you stay with them? Martinez asked quietly. This is your chance to rejoin your people. Zelmora considered the question carefully. They are my people, yes, but they have built their life here, and I have begun to build mine aboard the Pathfinder. You're welcome to remain with us for as long as you wish, Martinez assured them. I believe I can serve both our peoples better by continuing our journey together, Zelmora decided. The colony will establish communication with your Starfleet. I can help bridge our cultures and knowledge as we explore further. Martinez smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. The void between our peoples doesn't seem so vast anymore. Zelmora looked back at the colony, then up at the night sky where the Pathfinder orbited, a point of light moving steadily against the stars. No longer drifting in deep space, they said softly. Now traveling with purpose, illuminating the void together.